But first we have to, let's at least quickly look at what I will call the 10 major defenses against anxiety. So as you listen to these, while you holicipate, really feel within whether you use any of these defenses and whether they still actually work for you, or have they become problematic? Have they become what we could call ego dystonic? In other words, they can actually increase your anxiety rather than defend against it. Okay, so the first one, I have 3 different names for it, or 4 really, but the main item is denial. But denial always, so put denial / attachment proliferation. Okay? So, and then the third would be diversion, and the fourth, distraction. So, which are very similar, but slightly different. So the goal of someone who uses this defense in any of or all of its forms is actually working toward making their life as superficial as possible. Because that's the only way out of anxiety, because the anxiety is coming up from below the surface. But if you keep your ego as a kind of a cardboard figure, it can avoid feeling it because it can deny it's there. What? Me worry? You know, that's wasn't that the old Mad Magazine motto, I guess? Alfred E. Newman, is that who that was? I don't know how I remember that, but I'm not still reading them, but, you know, they probably still exist. But in any case, it's very easy to stay in denial if you have enough other attachment figures you can focus on, which of course include pets, but they include all kinds of attachments, human, animal, plant, whatever you could be attached to, which is probably a long list. And then what is needed, of course, are diversions, which are sometimes justified and other times. The term I've seen on the internet is doom scrolling. I assume that's when you're just constantly having to divert yourself into another video to get away from yourself, right? And distract yourself. So you can distract yourself clearly. The internet and cell phones and all of that you see as a constant defensive maneuver. But of course, there are many activities that will divert you. Whether, well, we'll see what some of those are, but I think everyone knows what they use. How many can relate to that defense? Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad we have some honest people. That's the only way out of this, is to first look at that and say, is that really how I want to live? Do I really want to keep doing that, you know? There might be a better way, you know. Maybe having a deeper sense of who I am is worth the price of what I'll have to face. We'll see. The second, of course, is projection. And yeah, if you could write that, which just means you assert and believe that others are the cause of the problem. You know, I wouldn't be anxious if they weren't doing what they're doing out there, you know, or if these people weren't looking at me or saying what they're saying or asking me to do what I'm supposed to do or whatever it is. But it's always the other, and why are they not getting it, and why are they, causing me such difficulty. So if you can project it out, then of course you can imagine that all you need to do is get away from those beings or that situation, and you'll be okay. But of course it never is coming from outside, right? So how many use projection as a defense? You have okay, good. Let's see if everybody, some people will go for all 10. Then you'll get the prize, okay? This is a kind of an Olympics of anxiety. I was at one point thinking of calling it the Ozempic Olympics, because I've seen that that's one of these drugs that people are taking that, you'll lose weight, but you'll die doing it, but hey, it's worth it, right? Have a good-looking corpse, maybe, So that's the Olympics people are in, become as superficial as possible and, as out of it. Okay, the third defense, of course, is somatization, right? I'm not anxious. The body might be, and it's got some symptoms, and I can focus on that. This migraine has nothing to do with anxiety. It's just, I just need to take some more Advil or whatever, nothing going on here, just something physical. I'll talk to the doctor about it and, get some pills, and I'll be fine. But of course, it's rarely rooted in the body, but it's projected into it. The fourth one is what I'm labeling as a phobic scruples, all right? Which is a term I've never heard before, so if you understand it, let me know. But here's what I imagine I must mean by that, which is that people have certain things that they fear and they avoid because either they have moral scruples about it and they have a sense of disdain, or they feel disgusted by certain things. And so by avoiding those things and behaviors that they have scruples about, they feel relatively good. Because they can focus on, see what I'm not doing? Look at those people, they're all doing those disgusting things. But hey, I'm pure, I'm clear. And so there's a sense of getting away from a sense internally of a superego self-accusation of a state of identity that when imagined to be one's own, can create kind of a chaotic agitation. Can people relate to that one at all? Yeah? Okay. So there are people who have scruples, like, for example, they'll say, I'll never get divorced. Those people who get divorced, they're really bad, So I won't get married and I won't get in a relationship and I can avoid all of that. But I'm not going to deal with how I'm in evasion of what might otherwise have been important landmarks of my development, but I'm doing it out of a moral scruple. But actually there's fear that one will not be able to fulfill let's say, a role that requires a more mature and a more well-developed consciousness. And the fifth is a combination: rage, fury, and depression, which is anger directed inward at one's ego, and the bipolarity of those. And so one can discharge a lot of anxiety through anger. but it never brings peace. The sixth one I would call sabotage. It's a more extreme behavioral defense. And there's self and other sabotage, sometimes combined. And that sabotage, of course, will change the focus of whatever is going on, and will discharge a lot of anxious energy, and put the focus not on oneself but on the behavior itself, as of course an accident. So some people will choose to be spaced out. A space cadet will just, what did she say? What was the instruction I got again? I just, there will be no retention, and there will be a blanking out of information that could trigger anxiety. So that's one way. And of course, there are variations, the wacko strategy, and just being a bumbling idiot. That's a great technique, Nobody's going to ask you to do very much, and, the attention all goes, oh, wait, I didn't know, And so it creates scenes that can become the focus rather than who, me, kind of thing, right? All right, how many can relate to sabotage? Yeah? Okay. That's good. This is a very honest group. I like that. The seventh one, hallucination. And you don't have to be psychotic to do this, But people can hallucinate, hearing voices. Now they can use cell phones. They don't even need to, but, you can even hallucinate a message and pretend you're listening to somebody. Oh, really? Yeah, uh-huh. Oh, I won that much money? Really? Bitcoin? Yeah, okay. No. So people can hallucinate all kinds of voices and images, and hallucinate memories, hallucinate all kinds of things that never happened. The mind is very agile in creating, veiling, screening out hallucinatory images. How many can relate to that? Yeah, okay. So it's something to definitely be aware of when it's happening, and to be able to stop it, or at least control it. Of course, number 8, that's easy. Drugs, they're very common, and there's a number of them that will probably, work, but some may end up bringing about worse situations like overdoses and other consequences. The 9th, of course, sexual acting out, porn addiction, obsessive, erotic thoughts. That'll distract the attention pretty well. I won't ask anyone who uses that one. It's probably better to leave that in the privacy of your own ego. And the 10th one is a kind of sadomasochistic relationality pattern, let's put it that way. S&M relationality. It doesn't necessarily mean you're actually in an S&M relationship in the full sense that Michel Foucault used to go for, if you know that French philosopher. But it's a kind of enjoyment of bickering and being one up and one down, and getting out your aggression at the person who cannot fight back, and enjoying maybe perhaps a a moral superiority because you're allowing yourself to be the underdog, and there's all these kinds of unhappy relationships that are based on the need to have this kind of a defense. Anyone can relate to this one? Yeah? Okay. Good. Well, at least we have probably hit most of the defenses that people use. But if there are more and anyone wants to contribute, any that you're using that I haven't mentioned that might be helpful for others, please do feel free. So the problem is, if the defenses are working, then you may not be so interested in getting to the root of the anxiety. But a time, I think, inevitably comes in life when none of them do work.